His neighbors complained about the smell.
There is too much smell coming from this house.
His co-workers called him quiet. His victims never got the chance to call anyone. This is the story of Jeffrey Dahmer, the monster who hid in plain sight for 13 years. A man who looked you in the eye, shook your hand, and smiled. And behind that smile was something no human mind should ever have to imagine. Tonight, we go inside the story. The childhood, the murders, the apartment, the confession, and the question that still keeps criminologists awake at night. How did nobody stop him sooner? Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 1991. A sweltering summer night. The kind of night where the air is thick and the streets are restless. Two police officers are on routine patrol when they notice something unusual. A young man staggering down the sidewalk, barely clothed, bleeding, his eyes distant.
Help me! What happened?
And he had just escaped from the apartment of Jeffrey Dahmer. The officers approached him. They tried to speak to him.
What happened?
But before they could piece together what was happening, a calm, polite, well-spoken man appeared. He told the officers the boy was his friend, that he had too much to drink, that everything was fine. He even laughed a little. The officers believed him. They walked away. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. By all early accounts, he was a normal child, energetic, curious, bright. His father, Lionel, was a chemistry student. His mother, Joyce, was prone to anxiety and emotional instability. The household was tense, unstable, full of arguments that rattled the walls and silence that felt even louder. When Jeffrey was around 6 years old, his father was clearing animal bones from beneath the family porch, a routine task, but young Jeffrey was mesmerized. He picked up the bones.
What is this?
These are bones.
He examined them. He rattled them together and listened to the sound they made. His father thought nothing of it, just a curious boy. But that fascination never left. By the time Jeffrey was in his early teens, he was collecting roadkill, stripping the flesh from dead animals, preserving their skeletons, mounting insects, dissolving carcasses in acid he had learned about from his father's chemistry books. He kept jars of preserved creatures in a shed in the backyard. His classmates thought it was strange. His teachers noticed he was withdrawn, but no one intervened. He began drinking heavily at 15, bringing alcohol to school in a bag, stumbling through his teenage years in a fog of loneliness and obsession. He had no close friends, no meaningful relationships, just a growing darkness inside him that he couldn't name and couldn't escape. And then, at 18 years old, Jeffrey Dahmer committed his first murder. It was the summer of 1978. His parents had just separated. His mother had left with his younger brother. His father had not yet moved back in. For a brief window of time, Jeffrey Dahmer was completely alone in that house. He picked up a hitchhiker named Stephen Hicks, 19 years old, just a young man trying to get somewhere. Dahmer invited him back to the house. They drank, they talked, and when Stephen tried to leave, Dahmer struck him with a barbell, and then he finished what he started. He buried the body in the backyard. Years later, he would dig it up, dissolve the flesh, and scatter the bones in the woods. And then he went on with his life. He enrolled in college, dropped out, joined the army, was discharged for alcohol abuse, moved to Florida, then back to Milwaukee, then to live with his grandmother. And through all of it, the darkness followed him. In 1987, 9 years after his first murder, Jeffrey Dahmer killed again. And this time, he didn't stop. Between 1987 and 1991, Dahmer lured 17 men and boys to their deaths. Most of them were young black or brown men, many of them from marginalized communities. Men whose disappearances were not always taken seriously, not always investigated with urgency. That uncomfortable truth would later force a painful reckoning with how victims are treated based on who they are. His method was disturbingly consistent. He would find his victims at gay bars, bus stops, shopping malls. He was charming, soft-spoken. He offered money for company, for photo shoots, for a few hours of time. And once they were inside apartment 213, they never left. He kept skulls. He kept bones. He built a shrine in his apartment. He said he wanted companions who could never leave, who would always be with him, who were entirely his. The smell in his building was constant. Neighbors complained. He told them his refrigerator had broken down, that meat had spoiled. Management gave him a warning. No one looked further. He was questioned by police at least once during this period. He talked his way out of it. Calm, polite, cooperative. The officers left, and the killing continued. By 1991, Dahmer was killing approximately one person every week. The compulsion had consumed him entirely. He was barely functioning at work, barely sleeping, living inside a nightmare of his own construction. And yet, to everyone around him, he was just a quiet guy who kept to himself. Then came July 22, 1991. Tracy Edwards had managed to escape apartment 213 with a handcuff still dangling from his wrist. He flagged down a police car on the street. He told them about the man, the apartment, the knife, the strange, low chanting, the smell. Officers Robert Rauth and Rolf Mueller went to apartment 213. Dahmer answered the door, calm as ever. He offered to get the key for the handcuffs from the bedroom. Officer Mueller followed him. And then, Mueller saw the photographs. Polaroids, arranged carefully. Images that made the blood drain from his face. He called out to his partner, and within minutes, the full horror of apartment 213 began to reveal itself. A human head in the refrigerator, 3 more in the freezer, preserved skulls on a shelf in the bedroom, a barrel in the corner containing acid and remains. A total of 17 victims in various states of preservation inside a 2-room apartment in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Jeffrey Dahmer did not run. He did not fight. He sat down and he confessed to everything in calm, precise, almost clinical detail. For hours, he told investigators every name he could remember, every date, every method, as if he had been waiting for someone to finally ask. At trial, Dahmer pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. The jury disagreed. He was found sane and guilty on 15 counts of murder. He was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms, 957 years in prison. He said in his final statement that he had destroyed his own soul, that he wished he had been put to death, that he understood there was no coming back from what he had done. On November 28, 1994, Jeffrey Dahmer was beaten to death by a fellow inmate named Christopher Scarver at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin. He was 34 years old. The city of Milwaukee exhaled, but the grief never fully left. Because the story of Jeffrey Dahmer is not just the story of one man's evil. It is the story of a system that failed, of neighbors who noticed but didn't push, of officers who were called and turned away, of victims whose names deserved far more attention than they received, of a society still learning how to see the warning signs before it is too late.